Mhm.
What have you done to drive? I don't know. It was like 15 million, 15,000 units.
Wish.
No,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah. I know.
God.
Everyone wished it was 15 million, but yeah, 15,000 copies of
Dude,
the game sold.
the best thing I can say right now is localize your game.
Speaking about future trends, what I'm seeing on the market is Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft. They are all trying to lure game developers into their own
Mhm,
walled gardens and make games on their platform. For Fortnite, we have
mhm.
Lego. For Roblox, you have all the brands are coming there and making games and those are really attractive platforms to launch your games. Would
Yeah,
you consider making games on those platforms? What do you
hundred
see?
percent.
What do you see
One
about future game developers?
hundred, 180%. I would consider making games on those platforms, and I'll tell you why. So, Fortnite in particular, the networking's already in place.
All right. So, hi everyone. This is Duke from Fungi. So, I'm super excited for today's guest. This is Danny Silvers from Lantana Games, one of our customers. And yeah, Danny, would love to
Hey, Duke.
hear about you and some introduction to our audience.
Sure. Well, Duke, like you said, my name is Danny Silvers. I run Lantana Games. We are a very, very small indie studio in Boston, Mass. In fact, for the last few years, I've been solo, pretty much from the start of the pandemic onward. So originally, we had been a studio that was devoted to teaching college students and even a couple high schoolers about the game industry and getting started in making games and such. When the pandemic came around, the rest of the industry adopted our business model, and it pretty much became like everybody started having the same kinds of programs that we had had for close to a decade, and we couldn't bring on any talent, so everybody else just kind of went their own way, and I was like, I'm just gonna solo dev the rest of this. It's fine. Have not bounced back from that, unfortunately, but making do, doing fine. In 2020, end of 2020, we launched Mondrian Plastic Reality on Steam. And that was a sequel to Mondrian Abstraction and Beauty, which came out in 2015. So the game was very much focused on old school arcadey gameplay mixed with user generated content in multiple forms. It had a level editor, had a photo mode, customizable art museum that you could use as your hub world, tons and tons of emphasis on user creativity. Um, and so, to go along with that, in the original launch, we included Steam Workshop, which was pretty successful. So, the game launched with 100 levels, and there's currently something like another 150 or so on Workshop. So, not too much of a failure in that sense, even though it's, just a small handful of customers who've made levels up on Steam Workshop. But despite that, it still probably our most complex, easily our most complex game to date. But unfortunately, not our most monetarily successful, and certainly not the biggest player base we've had. The original game still outsells the second one 8-1. So a few months ago, I decided it was time to get the game detached from Steam, not off of Steam, but bring it to other platforms like Fungi's so that the rest of the world could finally enjoy it. So that luckily coincided with an update to the engine, QuickTeam Fusion 2.5 Plus, that allowed me to deactivate certain code libraries on build, which was a really cool feature because it meant that I could just deactivate the Steamworks integration and pretty much have the same exact game and then just have a few functions in there. It's like if Steamworks isn't, like if there isn't a Steamworks library, then do this, i.e. put in a link to the mod.io page rather than put in an upload button to Steam Workshop. So the game kind of automatically finagles to match the universal version, as I call it. And it's been a journey pretty much the whole time.
Well, yeah, it's a journey, and so if you could tell everyone that is listening, how did your journey begin? Like, how did you get into game development?
So at the age of 5, I decided I wanted to make games. And for reference, I'm 36 now. So I've, in a way, been at this for 31 years.
31 years, wow. That's a long ass time.
It is a long ass time. I kind of started in like RPG Maker 95, and then worked my way up in high school, made a few Java games, and then so then I attended the Savannah College of Art and Design, where I studied under Brenda Romero, learning game development, as well as 3D modeling. And I was already like better at Photoshop than my professors down there, so I taught them some stuff that I knew. I'd already had an internship at an ad design firm in high school. And then after graduation, the entire economy crashed and there were no jobs, but being indie was becoming very, very popular with games like Braid and AudioSurf and World of Goo. And a local community here, Boston Indies, was starting to spring up. So my friend Darius said, hey, you need to meet up with this guy, Scott, who's running this group. And I said, oh my God, yes, absolutely. So I met up with them, was immediately welcomed in. There were only like 6 or 7 of us at the time. It was really, really small. And over the years, Boston Indies grew to like 100, 200 people per meetup. It became absolutely insane. And then, this was like just barely pre-Unity. Unity was about to, really, really take off. But Unity was still like Mac only when I first started out. So we were making fun of it down in college for being Mac only. We were like, why is this engine Mac only? They're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, Unity became Unity. So then in 2012, a few of us from within the Boston Indies community decided that we wanted to host our own like mini convention and have a cheaper way for local developers to show off what they're working on to local gamers rather than just PAX East. So we started the Boston Festival of Indie Games at MIT. And we were expecting a couple hundred people to show up. We got a couple thousand people the first year instead. And we'd only booked 2 classrooms for the entire convention. So that was fun. And
so
then
everything grew organically.
I mean, beyond organically. I mean, it exploded overnight. We were not expecting that many people to show up at all. And then the next year, we found bigger space at the school. We hosted a concert with like the video game orchestra and Darren Korb and the Proto Men. I think just a bunch of guests. It was awesome. And then the third year, due to the company being in debt, I worked with the team to scale things back and find new revenue streams and everything, and got the company back into the black and walked away and went full-time indie from that point on.
I know that you also teach about game development.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So can you describe me what is the process of learning for new students? What kind of subjects and what should they focus on when learning about game development?
I like to treat the learning at Lantana Games as kind of like being in a garage band. So, really, no matter what you do, it's all just a matter of like nurturing the student in a way for them to be able to learn on their own almost, because obviously I don't know everything, but I do know where to point people to help them figure things out. So for instance, if you're a programmer coming in, whether we're working in Unity, Unreal, Godot, ClickTeam Fusion, doesn't really matter, helping these students find the tutorials that they might need to get up and running, or being able to test things out with them and see how their code is working, toss some ideas around, some techniques like honing in on debugging issues and such. A lot of these concepts are really universal, engine to engine, and it's like half the time it's not so much about the specific language you're coding in, because not only do I not know everything, I certainly don't know every coding language, but some concepts like optimization or basic functionality, IO, all that kind of stuff, that's really on the metal more than on the screen. So it's really just a matter of working one-on-one, almost like a therapy session, to be like, so why do you think this bug is here? And it's just kind of all about problem solving and mystery solving, really, at the end of the day.
And
So
making yeah.
I was gonna say, I kind of like to let everybody who's working with us sort of drive their own car, so to speak. We've never been too picky about like what everybody has to contribute into a specific game. More just like, here's some general ideas of what we're looking for, and now you go off and experiment and bring something to the table, and we'll hone it in with you to get it to the point that it belongs in this game.
Yeah, and making a game, especially as an indie game developer, is sometimes, or most often, a very lonely endeavor. What advice can you give, those lone wolves into the long journey of making games? It can take a year or 2 years making a really successful indie game. What kind of advice you would give in terms of like on the creative process and also on the mental health side of things?
My first rule is mental health comes from physical health. Stay hydrated, get 8 hours of sleep, see the sun, take a walk. I mean, you don't have to do a lot, but you do have to move your body. Body's in motion, stay in motion. So, for me, like, I take my fitness very, very seriously. I'm at the gym, over the summer it was 4 or 5 times a week. Now it's winter, so it's 3, 4 times a week, but still a lot. Do a lot of cardio, lift when you can. Schedules can get really, really crazy in game development. So, like, if you have to, wake up earlier and go to bed a little bit earlier as well. Laugh, go watch some stand-up comedy, see a funny movie, play some games with your friends, particularly ones that make you laugh hysterically. Laughing is so good for you.
Your own game, or just other games?
At every game, like,
Right.
remember, every other game is research, and you can
Yeah.
you can finagle that correctly. You can write those off in your taxes. But really, it's just a matter of remembering to have fun with life, remembering to stay positive. And if you feel yourself not being positive, try to immediately hone in on why you're not feeling positive and what change you can make to get yourself back a little bit.
Now, after releasing the game, successfully releasing the game, now comes a marketing and sales part. What have you done to drive. I don't know. It was like 15 million, 15,000 units.
Wish!
No,
Oh my
yeah. I know. Everyone wished it was 15 million, but yeah, 15,000 copies
God.
of the game sold. Marketing and sales, that is the cornerstone of every product.
Yeah.
What advice can you give for indie game developers out there about launching the game
Oh
and
man.
driving
So
such
so
great number of copies?
Abstraction and Beauty did in fact sell 15,000 copies, but that was also a very different market back in 2015. Um, that was primarily driven through a combination of word of mouth and bundles, which worked really, really well. And the plan had been, okay, we're going to take this decent sized audience right here. We give them the sequel in a few years, not only a sequel, but they're going to get a discount on the sequel for owning the first game. So we'll come out with like a series bundle on Steam the moment it launches. They'll get 30% off, i.e., the price of the first game, which was practically included in the second game as well in terms of all the content was in there already. And then we just built tons more content on top of it. So we're like, we're going to discount them the price of the first game, and then they'll be back in droves. Didn't quite work out because we had competition like Among Us and Fall Guys in the same year. And it's interesting now, it's kind of a, well, unless you're living under a rock, for instance, you know that the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer just came out
Yeah,
less than a day ago.
yeah. I've
When,
seen it.
when
48
we're
million
recording
views.
this.
Yeah.
80 million last I checked.
Oh wow. Okay, so
Yeah. For comparison's sake, 10 years later, the launch trailer for Grand Theft Auto 5 has 98 million views. It's about to surpass that in less than a day. Dame Drops, a YouTuber food reviewer, came out with a video today that basically said, if you are a game developer, do not launch your game in 2025.
yeah.
And I'm inclined to agree, ever so slightly, with the caveat being, if you can somehow launch your game before Grand Theft Auto 6, you might be okay. But people also might be saving up their money for GTA 6 in case it's like an $80, $90, even $100 game. We don't know. Rockstar's put $2 billion into this thing, so it's going to be very, very risky. Game development's risky enough as it is right now because there are 20,000 games on Steam this year alone. It's a lot of competition, and now your competition's about to be GTA 6.
Yeah, I've also heard like you should launch when there are bigger games launching. It sounds counterintuitive, but I know that this game we who are about to die. It's a gladiator game, and they launched exactly when I know some big game launched, and they had also immense success. So I guess, well, it depends on how well prepared you are launching among other more, let's say,
so much in this
well-funded.
industry comes down to it depends.
Right.
So if you're a completely different genre from GTA 6, like say you are releasing a real-time strategy game, it might not be such a bad idea to launch on the same day as GTA 6, or at least around the same time within the same month, because you're not necessarily trying to attract the same customer base. They're not saving up money for GTA 6 the same way that, like, if you were releasing a first-person shooter, third-person shooter, online, social kind of thing at the same time. So it really all comes down to your competition, your preparedness. Getting back to the original question of marketing, unfortunately, right now there is no easy answer. The best thing I can say right now is localize your game, as many languages as you can, but mostly pay attention to where your target audience like loves your genre the most. Brazil's becoming a very popular market. Germany, Spain. So definitely keep these territories in mind and localize your game. And the localization alone, well, we actually learned from Valve a couple months ago that their algorithm doesn't pay attention to wish list numbers. Their algorithm doesn't pay attention to hits on the page, doesn't pay attention to media hype. It pays attention to localization. So if you want to reach the widest customer base, you know, put some preparedness into localizing your game for different markets.
Yeah, what changed in terms of the gaming market when you launched Children of Liberty versus when you launched Montreal Plastic Reality?
So God, from COL, that's going back a ways.
Yeah,
Never finished,
2014,
never,
right?
never finished that. Want to finish it.
Right.
Wish I had more to say about it, but I do not, unfortunately.
Right.
I know a lot of people have been waiting on it, and I've done a little bit of teasing this year, mostly because of the Unity situation. So COL was actually one of the first games included in Unity's like Made with Unity program.
Oh.
They never put any money into it. They never really pushed it or anything like that. And that was back when it was built in Unity 3. And then over the years, we had updated it into, I think, you know, we capped it out in 2019.3 or something like that. The market was a lot emptier back then, I would say. There were not nearly as many developers working as there are today. If you just look at the Steam numbers, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think at the time we put Children of Liberty on Steam, there were maybe 500 or 600 launches on Steam that year, and now you're looking at 20,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, 10, 20 times as many launches easily. So that alone has changed the market landscape in that time.
And what was the idea behind Montreal Plastic Reality? Like how that game came to life? What was the idea? I played the game and it seems like wow, out of this world. Like this idea. I mean, I haven't seen such game before, and so like how did you come up with such a game? Like what was the thought process behind this?
See, this story I love because Mondrian is one of those rare instances of a game jam gone right. You know, whenever somebody does a game jam, they're like, "We're gonna take this to market. It's gonna be great," and they never do. You know, as much as I encourage game jams, please make games, game jam, do cool stuff. Don't expect that what you make is going to make $1,000 on Steam, you know, or even let alone 10,000, a million. It's probably not. With Mondrian, so we took part in. So there was this website called Indie Team Up, and they held like a breakout jam just for fun. And we had Arkanoid cloned in about 5 minutes, literally. And we were like, okay, what do we do with this? What happens if we put it in a circle? So, you know, a little bit of sine cosine later, the entire game's working orbitally. And I had just like, because I was lazy, I was just randomly generating the colors of the blocks in there. And I looked at it and I'm like, why does this look like Pete Mondrian's works? You know, there were no background images. It was just, you know, colorful blocks and ball, and everything was sort of randomly dynamically generating every single round. And it all just kind of merged into this abstract idea of, you know, what would a video game made by Pete Mondrian look like? And then in the first game, the idea was then sort of abstractly, what would a video game made by Pete Mondrian look like on various platforms, such as in DOS with an amber monochrome screen, or on Game Boy, NES, etc. How would the game have evolved, and can we present those scenarios to the player dynamically while they're playing? For Plastic Reality, we took it back a little bit, and it became less about sort of emulating these technological platforms and more about the art. And so if you play the single player game, you'll see Pete Mondrian, like trying to escape this virtual reality as he's like flashing in and out of looking like he's rendered on a Game Boy or in DOS. And, so the idea, without, spelling it out, was he's escaping from the first game and now he's landed in the real world. But upon landing in the real world, he has this like painting with him, and he's realized that he can travel in and out of these paintings to travel through time and uncover more of his lost works. And so we actually tell like a biographical story, a true biographical story about Pete, mixed in with some fictional time travel aspects, with the idea at the time being like, can we sort of make this as like a Magic School Bus kind of scenario in terms of the storytelling, while also offering the player a much more honed in design from the first game, but still maintaining what made the first game so special and crazy to play in the first place. So, like you've got tighter acceleration curves, much better controls, multiple playable characters, all the levels of customization that I talked about before, an expanded soundtrack, more game modes, user-generated content, level editor, photo mode. I mean, we went all out. Oh, and Razer Chroma integration as well. So, if you have a Razer keyboard or a mouse or whatever, those dynamically generated colors that I was telling you about before, even that system got far more in depth at the second one, where we actually generated a little bit of an AI that has some very keen concepts of color theory built into it. So it creates these much more honed in color harmonies that it paints the whole level in, and then it'll paint your devices in those colors as well. So your entire room will glow to match what you're playing on screen. And that's something that I haven't ever seen another game do before or since. And to me, it like the partnership with Razer felt like just natural. And they and I worked together to build the code library for Click Team Fusion to get that up and running. Tim Grotman over at Razer, great guy. We worked together practically every day for about a month to get that up and running and figured out, and it was just the best time. And by the time that was working, it was like, I mean, just absolutely incredible. And I call it like immersion bleeding, where what's happening on screen is coming out into the real world just a little bit, not to the extent of like holograms or virtual reality or anything, but just getting you more in the zone of what you're playing. And that to me was like a really, really special feeling.
And you did an amazing job engaging your community in actually building the game and building as part of the building blocks for the game itself. How did you come up with that idea, and how, like, can you describe the community engagement features that you have embedded into the game?
So in a way, Plastic Reality is a live service game, but in a very, very cheap manner. Again, this comes down to sort of problem solving. It's like, well, we don't have the money to pay, say for Azure or Beamable, and nobody supports this particular engine anyway. So, but what can we do? Oh, we can implement some simple online triggers, and then just like, check in a place when the game starts to see if there's a signal in place on our website, on a server, wherever. And then if yes, we'll just bake the live event stuff into the game itself. And so, we have like a fall festival, we have a winter festival. I would love to get some more kinds of stuff in there. Um, and then that unlocks like modifiers for game modes, and free daily unlocks, and different kinds of, like, sometimes we've done art contests up on Steam Workshop. And it's really just all been about like I've always seen Mondrian as the kind of game that I want players to pick up for 5 minutes every day for the rest of their life, rather than pouring 4,000 hours into it. Although there have been players who poured 4,000 hours into it, and that was on the first game.
Wow.
And even back then, I was like, "What's wrong with you? There isn't 4,000 hours worth of content in this." There is now. There wasn't then. Um, so really, it's all just been a matter of how can we keep things mixed up, sort of dynamically, and you know use the internet to optionally send signals into the game to change it up, but not require players to have an internet connection to play the game, obviously, because it's a single player game, and it's such a dirty thing to do. But since you already need the internet to, say, upload your level onto Steam Workshop, then it's not a stretch to say, if you have an internet connection, we can activate some live service event functionality to mix up the game and run some mods and give you some free stuff at Christmas time. So really, the community engagement has just been about like good messaging, fun mix-ups, and again, just everybody having fun and encouraging creativity.
There's 20,000, maybe even more games launching on Steam. And
Mhm.
mobile, I guess that's going to be hundreds of thousands of mobile game apps every year.
Yeah.
And that number may grow in the future with the use of AI and how fast game developers can ship those games even
Mhm.
faster than now. What are your thoughts on that? Will you use AI to power up and build your future games? How will this affect the entire industry?
I think it depends on how sophisticated AI can get. I always use actually a Star Trek reference when it comes to AI. There's a scene, very funny scene in Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Lieutenant Barclay has been taken over by this, like his brain has been taken over by an alien parasite, and they're trying to save this space station from exploding, and he can't like get the panel in front of him to work fast enough to save it. So he runs to the holodeck and starts instructing the computer on these different kinds of interfaces to put in front of him. So he's got like a text input interface on one side, then actually an emoji interface on another side, and then he's trying to get this like neural interface beam up above, and the computer has no idea what he's talking about, and he's like, no problem, here's how you build it. And I'm like, that is kind of the future of AI game development, where we just like explain to the game engine what we have in mind, and then it goes and makes it for us, and then maybe we have to go and manually debug it for a little bit, but more likely by the time that happens, the computer will be able to debug it for us. So I think we're not as far off from that kind of thing as people hope. I think that, though, we're yet to see what the full implications of this technology are, and if it will ever be process based rather than results based. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at AI art, for instance, it currently is really just the most sophisticated MS Paint user in history. You don't get layers, you don't get filters, you don't get those those little bits that you need to make your image modular. You just get the image. Um, and if you're skilled enough, you can go in and edit it yourself, but it just slaps everything together and you get a merged image in the end. Um, any code AI spits out is kind of the same way. It's not like it's commented it for you. It's not like it's built things out into separate state machines to make your life easier. It's just one long chunk of code that you slap in, and maybe you can debug and fix, maybe you can't. You know, we're not there yet, and it's gonna take a whole lot more processing power and electricity to make AI as process based as we as game developers would kind of need it, because we work modularly, we build up, we're iterative. It's a very, very iterative art form. And if you're just taking basically this pre-existing stuff and then you put it into a package and you put it up on Steam, you're kind of no better than an asset flipper from back in the early Unity days, from like Unity 4, Unity 5, when the asset store first came out. And people would download tutorial packages and wrap them up and put them up on Steam and basically try to steal money from the tutorial creator. So, I think we're going to be dealing with a little bit of that to start. But I have hope that in time, maybe probably less than a decade, honestly, but that in time, we will start seeing some really interesting stuff made with AI. And then we will have to get into the question really of, did you make it or did it already exist? And, now you're ripping off copyright and such. Full disclosure, I've played around with AI. I really like what I've played around with, but would I use it to make an entire game at the moment? No, absolutely not. Would I use it to supplement bits and pieces of a game that are missing? Yeah, yeah, I don't see why not. It is a tool. I wouldn't take like I wouldn't take anything an AI generates and put it in the game without modifying it. And I wouldn't make anything that wasn't based on works that I had already made or had the rights to use myself. And especially for the big game developers, we have our own data sets. Let's use our own data sets. We don't have to use the no-name sets that like the Midjourney uses or whatever. We can work from our own resources that we have already, and that's really cool. Because at that point, you are just, if you think about it, AI art in particular is just dungeon generation done on a micro scale.
Yeah.
So that's really all it is. The technology has been around since the 80s. It's just bigger and faster and happens to, spit out a texture or a concept art or whatever instead of a playable dungeon. But that's my take on it. It might be to some a more controversial take, because I'm not immediately coming out and being like, oh, it's copyright infringement. But I try to look at things with a little bit of an open mind. And I can absolutely see both sides of the argument. But you as a developer, or like anyone as a developer, really, we're always worried about, like, can we ship on time? Can we ship quality? Can we save some money? Especially, and or at the very least, what's going to help us get a prototype done? What's going to help us get to market? What's going to save us a day, a month, a year of development, even? Yeah, we'll see. The tech is what it is at the moment. I would personally like to see it better. But I think that there's a lot of people who are so opposed to it that it could put the technology at risk. And, then depending on where you're developing it, you might not be allowed to use AI to help you out. In which case, you're probably just going to have to scale back your projects, back to what you can do yourself versus what you can do with some computer assistance.
Speaking about future trends, what I'm seeing on the market is Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft. They are all trying to lure game developers into their own
Hmm.
walled gardens and make games on their platform. For Fortnite, we have
Hmm.
Lego. For Roblox, you have all the brands are coming there and making games and those are really attractive platforms to launch your games. Would
Yeah,
you consider making games on those platforms? What do you see?
100%.
What do you see about future game developers?
100 180%, I would consider making games on those platforms, and I'll tell you why. So Fortnite in particular, the networking's already in place.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you would have to be an idiot to say, I'm going to make a multiplayer shooter and I'm going to do my own networking, and I'm going to do it myself. Really? Really, you're going to go to that length, and you've never done any network coding in your life? Good luck to you. Versus, I'm gonna make a game in Fortnite, and I'm gonna be able to test it every single day and make something really cool, and kind of keep my fingers crossed that a future update for Unreal Engine 5 has verse compatibility and Epic takes some interest in this, and I can just port it out of Fortnite into Unreal Engine and launch it standalone at some point in the near future. See, that's thinking like a business person right there. There are a lot of interesting business opportunities when it comes to these creation kit platforms like Fortnite, like Roblox, even Minecraft. Minecraft modding, for instance, is huge, and takes the game so much further than Mojang's ever been able to. So you look at yesterday's announcement in Fortnite, which interestingly coincided with the GTA 6 trailer, but you've got Lego Fortnite on the way. So you've got Psyonix making a game in Fortnite that's using Rocket League assets and another kind of car game in there. You've got Eminem's performance and all kinds of metaverse style events and performances happening in Fortnite,
Concerts. Yep.
concerts, and then on Roblox's side, Walmart for some reason made
Oh,
a little
they're
bit of
everywhere.
a
Yeah.
demo thing. I mean, there's no end to where the creativity will go, the commercialization will go. And the nice thing is these platforms are open both to the independent creator and the big creator. So whether you're huge like Lego or you're small like me, you can make stuff on these platforms. Their networking infrastructure is in place for you already, and they don't charge you any extra for it. Unlike with Unity, you can purchase a subscription to Unity's multiplayer infrastructure, but you still have to set the whole thing up yourself. You still have to put in the investment for actually, coding the game and the security and everything else that's going to go along with that. Versus make your game in Fortnite and at the cost of a few more percent. I don't know. That extra 10% may be very, very important to you. But at the end of the day, I would honestly say like that platform's going to get better. The only thing I don't like about, say, how Fortnite is set up at the moment is that Unreal Engine for Fortnite is still just creative mode, and all the content is still getting lumped together into one place, which means discoverability is an issue, and I don't know, you don't feel as special I guess for making something in UEFN versus in creative mode, but you can obviously do more with UEFN. So then it just becomes another issue of marketing. Um, I think we're really yet to see where game developers are going to take these platforms in total. I think in 2024, it's really going to come to light, though, what everybody wants to do with these.
We are running out of time, and so my last question is: what advice would you give for aspiring indie game developers, solo game developers out there?
Make games. There are more resources available to you than even when I started out, and there were quite a few resources when I started out. If you go to develop.games, this guy goes by Thor, his middle name, but he used to work for Blizzard, used to work for Amazon, used to be infosec for Department of Energy. He's a white hat hacker. And he runs a great YouTube channel and a great indie studio called Pirate Software. He has an entire website just filled with all the information you need to get started. But if you want the quick summary of that, go download an engine, be it Unity or Godot or Unreal or QuickTeam Fusion or Game Maker, Crytek, whatever you want to start with. Learn a little bit of Blender, learn a bit of Photoshop, learn a bit of a bit of code. Just make something, put it up on itch.io and GameJolt, and get to know the community and attend some events. Get your these days especially, get your game running on Steam Deck, and then when you launch it on Steam, go for that verification. Steam Deck is probably the most accessible console at the moment, even more accessible than Switch, because you don't need an extra developer license or dev kit to get things up and running on deck. So definitely go for that. If you're going to make stuff for mobile, heck, make it for mobile. But just make games, do some game jams, make some mods. Even modding is still a great way into the industry. Even if you make a Skyrim mod, Skyrim might be 10, 12 years old at this point, but just do it. Just make stuff, get stuff out there, be a part of the community. Find some time to stream, even get on a podcast or two. Just get your name out there and have fun, build a community. And when you do inevitably launch your game on Steam, make sure you get 10 reviews, because if you don't, you're buried. So, yeah.
Well, Danny, that was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for coming to my show. And everyone,
Absolutely.
Please check out Danny Silver's Lantana Games at lantanagames.com, or buy the games directly from the store.lantanagames.com using our Foundries platform. So thank you so much, Danny. And have a nice Christmas and holiday.
Have a great one. Merry Christmas, Duke. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Hope to see you soon.